Oh, we're live. Hey guys, it's me, Anais, and with me is the fabulous writer, JD Estrada. Ta-da!
Hola.
And we both have our tea, and we are here to talk about JD's wonderful books. And in fact, he has a book that was just released this week. So we are definitely going to talk about how awesome that is, and let's get to it. So, JD, please tell us a little bit about yourself, where to find you, and about your book.
In the great day of the 13th of August of 1980, uh, to make an off-the-cuff comment, actually my mom had to hold me in because another patient came in with placenta previa. I'm not sure how to say it in English, and they told her, Marieta, you have to hold on, because if not, the other patient and her baby is gonna die. So basically,
Oh my God.
people ask me why I always yield when I'm driving, and that's a reason. I was born yielding.
That's incredible. You know, they tried to do that with me, and I was the opposite. I was born in the middle of nowhere in Canada, and there was one little hospital place that my parents drove really, really far to get to. And there was no doctor on duty when I was born. And they told my mom to close her legs, and they told her to just don't have the baby because there's nobody here to get the baby. And I was born anyway with a around my neck 3 times. They probably should have stayed home, honestly, because I pretty much had my first near-death experience being born
Hey,
with nobody there,
okay.
and you know, costing the money to do it. So
But you still made it
I
out.
should
Okay.
have yielded. I should have yielded like you did.
No, mom held me in for almost an hour, and then I came through at about 6 p.m. But
God, that's incredible.
yeah, I am JD Estrada. I am a Puerto Rican indie author, born, bred, and raised in Puerto Rico, and I am on my 10th month in the lovely state of Georgia.
Excellent.
Where can people find me? If you go to any social media platform, with the exception of Snapchat and Tumblr, because I'm just not into that. I actually do have a Tumblr profile, but I just don't do anything there, because to me, Tumblr is like the midpoint between Instagram and the blog, and I have Instagram and the blog. So if you
Right.
search JD Estrada Writer on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, Instagram, YouTube, those five, you're going to find me. And my blog is jdestradawriter.blogspot.com. So if you can memorize JD Estrada Writer, you will probably see this mug somewhere.
And that's true because I have searched for him and found him many a place.
Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of what I've done so far, I've officially published 9 books, and this is my new book.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. That is my new poetry collection. But apart from that, I've published 2 novels, which are books 1 and 2 in the Human Cycle, which are Only Human and Shadow of a Human. I've written the first volume of The Daydreams on the Sherbet Shore. I'm working on the second one. I've published 4 English poetry collections, which are Between the Tides, Captured Moments, Dark Strands, and Black Tie Affair. And in Spanish, I published Pensando en Metáforas, which is my first, completely Spanish work. And I also published a bilingual collection, which has essays, stories, and poetry in both English and Spanish. And it's called 2020. So basically 20 pieces in English, 20 pieces in Spanish. And that book is actually divided by a bilingual poem.
That is really cool. I love whenever there's a book that's bilingual and you can look back and forth and try to see the similarities and the differences.
Now, the thing is that my brain in each language is pretty different, in the sense that I'm really into fantasy and science fiction in English. I'm really into that. And in Spanish, I'm more social commentary, and it's not nonfiction, but it's almost like it's not contemporary because it's not romantic, but real stuff.
Yeah.
Drama.
Drama. That makes sense. The Spanish have the drama.
No, I don't know. That's just the way that it comes through the brain, and I'm not one to limit my brain. I'm one to let it run wild and do whatever it wants.
That's a good thing. Well, that's how I feel. And I've learned that if you have more than one language that you know, you can stave off Alzheimer's longer. It's
That
much better for your brain. So
no,
you're
that's
doing
what
yourself a favor.
I want to learn more languages. It's something
That's
that I was doing it in high school, and I took a couple of courses in French, and then I had a situation with a professor, and I just dropped French altogether, which is just me being a teenager.
yeah.
Eventually, I want to retake French, and I would like to learn at least conversational. I don't know, Portuguese, Japanese. This is a wish list. This is not something
Of
that I'm
course.
actively pursuing. Italian would be good, so I could go like, nah, nah, nah.
Yeah,
Um,
Italian is good for that. Italian, you have to really open your mouth. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, but in
a
Spanish
lot.
as well, or at least I already do it because Puerto Ricans, we're loud, and proud, and we like to have
That's
fun.
true.
And often people are like, "Dude, bring it down. I'm right here," and I'm like, "I'm also half Cuban, so volume is an issue."
That's what makes it fun because I'm, Canadian, French Canadian, so I'm usually pretty quiet. So I appreciate being around Puerto Ricans. They make me
Yeah,
more festive.
yeah, we are festive. That's for sure.
Yes. So I know that Black Tie Affair was heavily inspired by Charles Bukowski, which I find absolutely fascinating. Can you tell us about that?
Last year in January, I finished reading the collection "Pleasures of the Damned" by Charles Bukowski, which is like 500 or over 500 pages. It has a lot of his work,
Yeah.
and I read that from around September 2015 until January, and I would read it in chunks. And consistently, Bukowski would, as I read, I would be disarmed by a line or a poem, or the punchline would leave me almost a bit breathless, and it just had such an impact emotionally that I would read it and go, wow, what I have to stop here so that I can process what I just read.
Hmm.
And it had been a while since I read someone that gave me that. Prior to him, I'm a really big fan of Edgar Allan Poe,
Hmm.
and between those two, there have been poems that I enjoy, but poets that I really say, oh, I want to read everything. He's like the first one that really broke me in that way, and I can. It's not that everything that I write is gonna have that Bukowski flavor. But I did want to do something really, really as a tribute. Basically, my mindset, if you see the cover, it's got smoke, it says Black Tie Affair, and it has that noir feel. I wanted it to be dark that way. Not dark like Dark Strands, which is elegant dark. And I still haven't done horror poetry or something really dark and messed up, which is eventually in the plans.
Awesome.
But I wanted to do something. The mindset here was, what would I write if I was in a smoky bar in the 60s or 70s after a long day, of work, whatever work it is, where
Hmm.
you're just trying to process something through a drink and just try to cope with it. And that was the mindset that I used for this collection, and it was always pushing myself, because when I read Hank, it had that feel like I really don't care. As many rules as I can, I'm gonna break them. If this makes you uncomfortable, that's your problem. And that's something that I've hinted at before in my work. In Captured
Yeah.
Moments, there's a poem called Equals that talks about equality between races, and it uses pejorative language on purpose. The intention there is to use like racial slur after racial slur, and at the end say we are equal, even though our blood types are not compatible.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I like poems that make you feel and make you think, but that are accessible. I read Shaler's Fish. I forgot the author recently, and I just didn't like it because it was cryptic to the point where you could probably do an entire college course to study it and reveal. And it's like,
Right.
dude, I don't want the Da Vinci Code in poetry. I want it to be more accessible. I want to
Yeah.
read it the first time and go, oh wow, and then to read it like a fifth or sixth time and find something new.
Yeah.
So that was my, my reaction to Bukowski. He has a couple of things that are vulgar. I didn't go the vulgar route, but
Mm-hmm.
in that collection, and you see like his career, he would say some really rude things, but by the end, when he was dying, he read some really sad but beautiful poetry. And I'm like, I want to find something that can be crude but still be beautiful and show
Yeah.
that beauty is not just the rose or the clouds or, oh my God.
Yeah.
Beauty is a lot more complex and heterogeneous than that. A lot of people, the construct of beauty based on gender, race, age, ethnicity, or situation is a complex thing. And you can find beauty in really sad things or really angry things just because, I'm a huge fan of boxing.
Yeah.
And when you see a really good fight, it is brutal, but there is poetry going on in the ring, and there is a war of wills, and there's skill, and there's courage, and there's guts. And when you see a fighter that just has great technique, their movements are poetry. I also did a short story called Journeyman about boxing because I do love the sport. I don't wish ill upon anyone. I don't want anyone to get injured, but I do enjoy a good fight. So yeah, that's pretty much it. He disarmed me to the point that I said, okay, let's see what I can do now.
Yeah, that's interesting when you talk about the beauty in the vulgar, because for me, when I read Henry Miller, that was a revelation when I did that, because he, for me, did that. I was like, oh my goodness.
He's on my to be read list. I did check out Jack Kerouac, and that was just weird.
I was never, I never got it. I didn't. Sorry.
No, if there's
I know
fans,
that's supposed to be, you're supposed to love him, but I just couldn't. So,
if
but
there's fans,
yes.
you got to sell it to me, because to me he was like really high and not
He didn't seem very
the,
nice.
yeah, but he wasn't like the Beatles high, or
No.
he was just like, oh look, mangoes and avocados and flying saucers and
Yeah,
broken china, and I'm like, that's a poem.
I guess so. I don't know. If you go to the junkyard, yes, those are things you may see.
Yeah,
I don't know. It didn't have that effect, but I did when I hope that you do read Henry Miller, because he says some pretty crazy things, but in a way that you understand what he's talking about. And then you're like, whoa, you just said that.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing about poetry.
Yeah, good for you, buddy.
It helps you understand stuff that isn't understandable.
Yeah, yeah, and it helps you find a framework that you can start to understand it,
Yeah.
and then build from it. Yeah. Leonard Cohen too, he did that as well.
Yeah. But I told you, what I like of Leonard Cohen is when he doesn't focus on rhyme structure.
Yeah.
And he just lets go, and he just lets that wonderful mind just say what's on his mind, rather than going, oh, this has to rhyme with that. That's
right.
when I see him shine. When
Yeah.
I go, the collection that I read, I was like, wow, this is good. And then I read something where he would force the rhyme, and I'm like, maybe this works in a song.
Yeah.
But you would see it side by side, and you see that the same person did that, and you go like, well, it's just another side of him.
And I think that partially for him, it's because he would work on things for years, like decades. He would work on the same piece. And so some things, if he worked on it less, might have been less less like that.
I don't know. Maybe it's like
I'm not sure. But yeah, some of it's probably the songs, because his songs are side by side with the poetry in a lot of the books.
yeah, but I like it when he just lets go. Sometimes when you feel like either he's trying too hard or he wants to do this, it's okay. And then you read something where it's just so natural and it flows, and you go like, "Wow, that was beautiful."
Yeah, he has a lot of moments like that. But I mean, he wrote tons of stuff, so
Yeah,
yeah,
prolific, way prolific until his passing. You know, he was an amazing guy.
yeah, kept going.
Mm.
Crazy. So I also know that you have another book coming
Yep.
out, Rhyme Roulette.
Yes,
So let's talk about that one.
I don't like to get bored.
I guess not.
Rhyme Roulette, I wanted to do a collection that's borderline. It's not full on madness, but I wanted to show a really vast scope of what I could do with poetry. And pretty much it's like 50 pages of a preamble to the epic poem at the end, which is The Madness of Jonathan J. George. In the collection, you'll see poems of varying size, structure, rhyme schemes, topics, but it's supposed to have a flow. You'll see some that you might ask yourself, oh, but you're talking about whiskey. Why isn't it in Black Tie Affair? And it doesn't have the same feel. It might mention whiskey, but it doesn't have the mindset behind it to do that.
Yeah.
And it was continually trying to challenge myself with different things in structure. Because the good thing about poetry is that you can challenge yourself as much or in the fashion that you find that it's most interesting to you. One of the poems, it's called Alliteration to Zenith, and it is the alphabet, and each line has 4 words, and they, A, B, 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 and so on and so forth. And it's a hell of a challenge when you start to get into your Q's and X's and Z's.
That's what I was thinking. There's some letters that it'd be tough.
Yeah, I did my best. I think it's pretty good. Some people might think it's a gimmick, but other poems are meant to disarm you in that sense. Because you read something that's almost quirky and silly, and then in another page you read something about politics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that, and it's all a setup for that last poem. That last poem is 800 lines. It is 8 movements, 100 lines by movement, and each movement has its own title. And not only that, it has either its own rhyme scheme or approach to it. Sometimes it would be couplets, sometimes it would be iambic pentameter, sometimes it would be free write, sometimes it would focus on alliteration, and so on and so forth. And it's an exploration into madness as well. I think a good way to describe it would be influenced by David Lynch and H.P. Lovecraft. If you've watched David Lynch and you see those dream sequences that
Yeah.
it's weird stuff that's coming out of the character's mouth, but it makes sense, or at least it sounds compelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you take that and you take some of the elements of H.P. Lovecraft and the narratives that he has into the Mountains of Madness. I'm pretty sure it's called. You take those two and you do sort of, it's like my take of that to explore my travels through the Divine Comedy, in the sense of mental psyche, of purgatory, of hell, and heaven and release at the end, and how someone can just navigate their own madness. It's pretty out there. but at least I've read it a ton of times, and I always go like, oh, that's interesting, or this is interesting, and sometimes it's weird. But I wanted it to be weird. I wanted it to be a really challenging read, and for it to have so much, this is something that I want people to mull over. But in that same collection, there's other stuff that are super accessible that have 8 lines, poems that have 8 lines. So I
Yeah.
have a poem that has 8 lines, and I have one that has 800. And pretty much everything in between that I could think of.
That's why your title makes a good deal of sense then. It's pretty perfect.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm going to do another teaser, and the cover reveal will be on Thursday, and it will be available on Sunday. To uphold this would be my 3rd year doing it. I always release something on Mother's Day because I love my mom, and as a tribute to all moms. Why go to Jared?
Yeah, exactly.
Publish a book.
That's right. I agree with you. Screw Jared's. I don't care about that crap. Come on. Book's far better. A book is far better gift, especially if you have a nice dedication.
No, the thing is that I didn't do a full-on dedication to mom or anything, because eventually I will do a collection based on that. Because I've seen some collections based on or directed towards moms that are like kind of bland or just And I don't know.
I know what you mean, like flower fields.
Yeah, my Spanish poetry collection has a lot of poems that are about mom and my relationship with her and stuff that we lived through when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, to her treatment, to the operations, and just the stuff that I had to get out of my brain.
Yeah.
So, and that was also a promise, because I'm like, Mom, I'm going to release something in Spanish, and it's going to be only in Spanish, I promise. And I got the promise through. Now I have to do more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it's important to have something that's more complicated, because those mother relationships are complicated. And to just relegate them to this soft, kind of fake maternal crap isn't doing it justice.
No, the thing is that my relationship with mom is very particular. I love my mom to death, and I often say that she was like my first girlfriend. Nothing funky, but it's just that with mom, we've always really gotten each other, and it's something that I really value in life are conversations, and some of the most wonderful conversations have been with mom over a bottle of wine about life.
Yeah, and you should value that. That's rare. That's not something everybody gets.
No. And, we didn't have to have the birds and the bees talks, or she didn't have to talk about drugs. She was always really honest and open with me about pretty much everything. And as time passes, we're even more open. And that's the thing. A lot of people can share to a certain degree with their parents. And after that, they're like, oh, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure that I've experienced sharing things with mom that I can't share with pretty much anyone else.
Yeah.
And again, we get each other.
That's really cool.
So is my mom.
Yeah, I'm guessing if she raised you. So there you go.
No, but she's also a character in the Daydreams and the Work in Progress for the middle grade novel that I'm working on, and she also appears. It's the same character, by the way.
That's awesome.
She also appears in the novels. Her character is Mrs. Fawn.
Mrs. Fawn.
Yeah, look out for that. That's mom. I won't spoil anything, but that's so you know, that's mom.
Awesome. And then I know that you said that your wife was also highly influential.
She's also a character. She is Captain Jane Rivers. She is the leader of the Corsairs, with an E at the end.
Yeah.
And she is a vampire pirate captain.
That is awesome. I bet she loves that, right? I mean, that is a really cool thing.
Yeah, the thing is, it has a lot of her and a lot of her spunk, and Yeah, I refer to her in social media as the captain, and it's cool that people say call her. Oh, send my regards to the captain. I think that's pretty cute.
Yeah, that is
Um,
cute.
but yeah, she's a strong character in life and in the story. And yeah, I do let a lot of people, get into my stories, and a lot of people that I know. The daydreams are a particular case because every story includes people that I know. Um, for instance, in the second volume that I'm going to be releasing, I have short stories with everyone is people that I know. The concept came out of a conversation with a friend on Twitter, and it was so random that I said, you know what, I'm going to do a short story collection based on this, and she's like, go for it, and I did it. And it began to grow, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to include this person. And then while I was writing the third daydream, another friend from Twitter, she was actually gonna go under the knife, and that was my. She went under the knife. She came out. Everything's all right.
Good, good.
But instead of doing a get well card, I wrote a short story where basically it's a metaphor of what she was going through physically, but very whimsical, very quirky. People wouldn't know that it was about surgery.
Yeah.
But she was stuck in a swamp, and then she got free from the swamp, and then she went down the river until she got to the shoreline. It's in the Sherbet Shore, and near the Sherbet Shore is the Parched Pumpkin, and she was there hanging out and telling us about all her adventures of how she escaped from the swamp. The collection that I'm working on now has some of my favorite people and some of my best friends. I'd say from online, but from life. It gets to the point with people that I know online that we interact so much that they become so much more. The first one is Kitties and Cake, and it actually has Kate Evans, which is a wonderful. She's also an author. She's published small short stories that I will be sharing. She's fantastic, and she's helped me a lot with a lot of things in life, and she's just such a great friend and someone that means a lot to me, and one of those people that help genuinely and consistently, and have in the time that we've known each other, has always been there. It's like,
Yeah.
and it gets to the point where you know that person so much that they go like, are you all right? And this is based on text messages and whatnot, and
Yeah.
it's a really lovely thing. The second one in that series is actually with Karen Oren, who is also a poet. She was included in a collection which I actually haven't bought because the physical version was like really, really expensive, and in the UK, so buying plus the shipping plus
Yeah.
whatnot. But that excuse is old, and I'm gonna buy it. Just the thing is that I want to read a book by her because she's brilliant. Her and her family, her parents, Ed and Mavis. It's not like people are rich or anything, and a lot of people have situations. And I'm like, I'm gonna take you guys on vacation through Draim. Instead of the dream world, it's called Draim. So I took them on vacation, and it was super fun. And I was able, I was able to trick her into giving me some inspiration for a part in the story. I asked her some random questions, like, oh, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, a random question. If you would do a collection of art, what would the pieces be? She gave me some pretty good answers, and I used those in the story. And I expanded on those ideas. And it's a ton of fun. I also did a collaboration with her on my blog. She's a really, really, really great friend, and she's been like a super supporter from day one. Which is, you need that, honestly. And the last one that I have finished is with Sheila Bliss, who is also an indie author. And I can't believe I forgot the title of her book.
Oh, you have so many books in your brain.
Yeah, no, it's like I'm gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I already am crazy, but I'm actually looking for it because I don't want to lose the opportunity to mention her book.
Okay. We have a couple people chatting about us in there. Well, you specifically. They want to know what socks you're wearing.
Okay. Her book is Choices, and it's actually, and that's the first book. The second book, I haven't gotten to it. I will get to it. It's actually romance, and the dialogue is great. As for socks,
Here it goes.
the sexy legs. That's Frankenstein.
Nice. There
Yes,
you go.
every day I do wear quirky socks. It's something that I started a while ago, and it's gotten a bit out of control, but I enjoy it. And apparently so do people.
Yep. The people enjoy it, and now they ask for it. Like, come on, Chris, where is it?
I've gotten messages is on Thursday. I do that. I do Sockatumi and Sock Family.
Yeah.
On Thursdays. Actually, Christy Stratos was the one who came up with Sock Family, and I embraced it. And I keep doing Sockatumi for the people who are still looking for it. But I've had days where I haven't posted because, you know, I work full time.
Right.
They'll say, "Are you okay? You haven't posted the sock picture." And I'm like, you know, I'll get to it, and then I go into an aside. Oh, I'm gonna make myself some tea and snap a really quick picture, and tag a ton of people, and then people share their socks, and it's fun. And I'm expanding it now so that people say, "Oh, my socks are boring," and I'm like, "Okay, so do you have a T-shirt? Do you have a purse? Do you have a mug that's interesting?" Go indie now.
Canada.
I actually recently got a Canadian mug, which I will be debuting in a video soon.
Very nice.
But you know, it's all about fun, and I enjoy it a lot.
Do you have know about sockdreams.com?
No, and
because
it's taking
brother, that has so many socks, and they will ship them to you for free in the U.S. And they have the whole, like, a bunch of Sockatumi socks, but they have so many other socks too. That's where I got my like thigh-high tie-dye socks. So many weird socks.
I literally just opened a tab, so I have the website. It's not like, oh, send it to me later. No.
No, I follow them on Twitter. They are amazing. They have men's socks, and they have socks. They have, if you're looking for crazy socks, if you want to be part of JD's Sockatumi sock family, go to sockdreams.com.
No, the thing is that it's getting to a point where I sometimes get creative with the pictures, and sometimes I'm a copywriter. I'm a senior copywriter at an ad agency. So one of the things that I have to do is radio spots, and you have to time everything to make sure that everything fits. So I took a picture with like the timer, and then I do a quirky thing where I took two twisty ties and I made like a little man, and I made a bodyboard for him, and he's surfing in the office because since I've gotten here, I haven't seen the ocean.
That is so sad.
Yeah. So basically, sometimes I need to surf, and thanks to Twist, that's his name, I've been able to at least soothe myself a bit. I've taken pictures with that and my decorations in the office, with my books, because sometimes it's like, oh, you haven't taken the picture, and I'm like, okay, and then I see the socks and I go like, oh, I wore these like 3 weeks ago, so what can I do to make it different?
Yeah. Well,
any other sock related questions?
I know. We're taking sock questions. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about that isn't sock related, but it ties in with the poetry. You also write music, and I don't think that everybody knows that you write music. So I was wanting to know how that ties in with your poetry, because for me, some of my songs can be poems and vice versa. So for you, how does the music influence what you're doing?
Music and me go back a long way. If anyone's curious, go to my YouTube channel. I do have I have like almost 20 tracks of me playing guitar or covers or whatnot. I played 3 covers that I played are Soda Stereo's Te Para Tres, Oasis, Wonderwall, and Stay Young and Go Dancing from Death Cab for Cutie. each one feeds off each other. That's it. It feeds off each other. Uh, Sometimes you're listening to a song and you mess up the lyrics, and that's how a poem can start for me. Uh, from Roulette of Rhymes, there's one poem that starts, I heard it in the soy sauce of a broken china glass, something like that. And that's me mishearing the lyrics for a song by Nick Drake.
Hmm.
Sometimes
Nick Drake is playing in my head. I'm thinking about which one.
No. By the way, if anyone has not heard Nick Drake and you like Serendipity, you do like Nick Drake.
Oh God, he's awesome.
He's awesome, and that was a really big loss. That guy, he should have been
Yeah.
like super famous, and unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But when it comes to music, here's the thing: when I have a melody, I can do really good lyrics on occasion. It's not that all my lyrics are awesome, but at least the song Braille, I'm really happy with that song because if you read it out of context, it reads like a poem. It has a beat, it has a meter. And I just took one stanza and repeated it as the chorus, and I'm like, I like this a lot. If I have lyrics written that I want to get music for, that is, oh God, that is so hard.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot in the construction of certain poems that are related to music, because there's rhythm and there's a beat and there is a melody in the words, and you see it even in the size of the lines, and sometimes it stays pretty symmetrical, and sometimes it shifts. Sometimes it's almost a wave. Other times it's almost like metal. You have like really long lines, and then you have one word, and then you have really long lines, and you have one word. Just different ways to approach it. And the thing is that language in itself is melodic. If you ask me which language is better for writing, English or Spanish, I'm going to say it depends. Words sound better and have more strength in Spanish, if you ask me. If an insult in Spanish, you do it from the gut and the diaphragm. It's like, you say the equivalent in English, and I don't know if we're just so used to it because of movies and whatnot that it just doesn't pack that punch. But I also think that it has to do with how words are constructed and how syllables roll off your tongue. And, just look at the word car. I'm going to get in the car. And in Spanish, carro.
Yeah.
It's really dynamic in that way. And the language itself, the words in Spanish are gorgeous. You just say, you say aurora, and it's like, you say aurora, and it just flows. It has that flow. But when it comes to malleability, what you can do with words, English is endlessly more flexible in that sense. It's not saying that you can't be flexible or creative with Spanish. It's saying that English is superior in that sense. So each one has its strengths. And, sometimes you like obscure words. The thing is that obscure words in English are going to alienate people, whereas in Spanish, people go, oh, what's that? I don't know. That's at least the attitude that I get. And when you go from country to country, Spanish changes so much that you have people constantly asking you that. I work at a multicultural agency. That means I work with people from Argentina, Guatemala, Mexico, Chile, Venezuela, Colombia, Switzerland. It's either Switzerland or Sweden. I'm not sure where the IT guy is from.
Somewhere with an S.
Yeah, Puerto Rico and Spain. There's a very, and that's when you see why writing in Spanish is such a challenge, because although we speak the same language, we don't really speak the same language.
Yeah. I knew a couple. I don't speak Spanish, so I can't talk about it like you can, but I've known people who were from different places that spoke Spanish, they said the same thing. It was completely different. And even when they were talking to each other, they would use different words.
Yeah, and there's variations between England and Australia and whatnot, but it's
Yes.
nowhere near the divide that there is between our countries. And the thing is that some of, Puerto Rico is right next to the Dominican Republic, and that's, it coincides with Haiti, and then next to it is Cuba. So we can speak a language, but even there are variations and intonations, and in Spanish, at least when you're Puerto Rican, there is a lot of melody in what you say, and when you're Cuban, there's a lot of melody as well, and when you're Dominican, there's a lot of melody as well. The melodies change with the country, which has always been peculiar to me. And if you ask me, the people who talk the fastest are Dominicans, and the loudest are Cubans. I know other people wanna challenge it, but no.
They want to challenge it. I won't challenge it. I'm not as knowledgeable as you are. I did have some Cuban friends when I was in Florida for about a year, and they were fantastically loud.
Yeah. Ay, mi niño, ¿cómo tú estás? It's loud. And you go,
it was loud.
How don't you lose your voice?
Some of them did. Some of them did kind of lose their voice, but they just kept going.
No, it's funny because people tell me that in English, I'm kind of soft-spoken, but in Spanish, I'm really not soft-spoken.
That's awesome. So I have another question for you. Dun, dun, dun. What do you do when you're feeling discouraged? You seem like you're very upbeat, so I'm sure that you must have some things that you use to keep yourself that way.
Okay, my nature, honestly, is to be negative and pessimistic. And the thing is that I was that way for a long time until someone in college called me out on that, actually. They're like, I can't keep talking to you because you're always so negative.
Yeah.
Because it gets to a point where you're so cynical and you admire stand-up comedians so much that you get in that loop and you can't break it. And it got to a point where hearing that bummed me out, and knowing that people interacted with me and ended up drained, that left a really sour taste in my mouth. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna change. Mm-hmm. And I began trying to be more positive, and I have a hell of a temper. And I can get discouraged. And being an indie author, that's really easy to do.
Yes. Yeah.
But as time passes, and life offers you more than its fair share of bitch slaps, you learn to find positive things and silver linings and lessons. And finding lessons has always helped me a lot. And just knowing that something is not in vain helps a lot. I think the first time that you could say I was discouraged or really bummed out was when I was a teen, which is pretty natural. But maybe even earlier than that. The first death in my family was my aunt when I was like 7 or 8. And then my grandfather died from my father's side the next year. And then there were like, major deaths most of the years. So poetry became a thing to be, it was like a coping mechanism. And that was a way for me to not only not be discouraged, but just deal with it. In terms of motivation, poetry also helped in different ways and different points in my life. But you keep reading, you keep going to seminars and whatnot, you keep learning stuff, and you apply it. I read the Book of Five Rings by, I think it's Miyamoto Musashi, and out of all that book, what I was able to take the most from it was that you have to be mature enough to use the experience you have to face whatever situation you have at the best of your abilities without trying to look too much in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you shoot for an outcome rather than like executing and enjoying the moment, you're gonna miss out. And that was a really, really important thing to cope with. Surfing has always been therapeutic, and just exploring creativity. But you know, sometimes it gets really tough, and sometimes you have really, really, really rough days.
Yeah.
So I would have to look in the backlog of my blog to see when it was, but one particularly rough day when I had no sales, I had no reviews, it's like uphill, uphill, which it's still uphill. I was really bummed out, and I was really in a really bad negative streak. And I said, I don't want to be this way. And basically my conscience said, so what are you going to do about it? And I said, I'm going to have a positive impact.
Mm-hmm.
That thought kind of percolated. And then when I was 29, I think it was, no, 31. It was for the Encanto Pro competition in Puerto Rico, in Isabela. I went there, and I actually injured my back, and I actually had to call my wife for her to come. Isabela is a ways away from where we lived.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico. It's about an hour and 50 drive, which was great for her. You know, getting a phone call, it's like, I can't drive and I need you to pick me up. And she's like, is it really that bad? And I'm like, she was trying to like cling to anything, like he's not really that hurt. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm really hurt, and I'm considering going with an emergency crew that they had there. And she's like, no, because they were like, oh, we're going to take you to this hospital. And I had no idea where that hospital was.
right.
So what happens? I go back, I get checked out. Turns out I have herniated discs in my lower back and my neck.
Oh my Lord.
Super fun.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means that I had to be in bed for a week. And that's a long time to have this hyperactive mind. It took me 3 days to be able to go to the bathroom by myself.
That sucks.
It was just, you know, baby steps. And then I said, I had to take a really, 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 really serious look at myself and say, okay, this happened. There's not much we can do about it now, but we can take care of ourselves. What are we going to do? And there was a plan of action. And then that thought that I mentioned about wanting to make a positive impact in someone's life, I said, I'm really going to hold true to that. That every time that I have even a chit-chat conversation with someone, I want that person to at least chuckle or come away saying, oh, I feel better, or it's so good to see you. I wanted that, and I craved that.
Yeah.
Throughout the years, I've come up with a ton of ways of doing that. So sometimes I've come up with silly concepts just to use whatever I have inside me and try to do what I call emotional alchemy. Basically, you have a negative feeling or emotion. You use that energy and you say, I'm going to do this. And you let it go, and it actually does work. So that's why I do the yogurt tastings. That's why I do the sakatumi. That's why I do the visual typos, which shall be making a comeback, the dictionaries, which shall be making a comeback, the blog. And now with YouTube videos, it's just different ways of using that. And a couple of years back, 2 years back, I said, when I'm feeling really negative, I'm going to do positive things. I'm going to do tangible, positive things when I feel discouraged. Mm-hmm. So I had this really bad day. I'm like, people enjoy my book, but they're not leaving reviews. What can I do? I'm like, you know what? I have to earn someone's review. So I'm going to focus on that. And there's more than I can do to earn that. So we can't do that. But I can go to a foundation. I can research foundations, and I can do drives for them. And I've done countless sales where all proceeds go to either help American Cancer Society. I did it to do crowdfunding to help with the treatment for 3 people that I know. Well, 3 people that I know personally, and a 4th person, which is a professional bodyboarder from Australia.
Yeah.
She got severely injured, and I'm like, let's do a drive for that. And it's just using that, because a negative emotion or feeling is energy. So how can I use that? It's like, I'm feeling bad. You know what? I'm gonna call someone and say that man, I miss you. How you been? Blah, blah, blah. Positive message. Do that. Positive message. Other things that I've gotten to do, actually, I always keep scrap paper because of my work. I have to print out a lot of stuff, and I just don't want to toss it. So I would have 2 piles, and I would have the pile that I would keep, which would be positive affirmations or things that I'm thankful for. And then everything that was negative, I would write it, I would tear it up, and then I would put it in the recycle bin. And I'm like, this paper is eventually going to get back to me, and I'm going to put something positive in it. And it's just looking for different ways and different mechanisms just to cope with the frustration. And sometimes you have to also identify triggers. What things trigger you? Seeing lack of sales or seeing lack of reviews, trigger me. So I can't check every day, because when you're indie, that's not the way it's going to happen either.
Yeah.
It's always fascinating that people on BookTube insist on reviewing what everyone's reviewing, and then you go like, man, I know a bunch of indie authors that are awesome that would love to see what you think about them.
Yeah.
I've been beyond blessed that a bunch of people have done videos either doing tagging me for something, or actually doing reviews of my book. William the Bald Book Geek has done reviews for my work. Peter Clark, the writer, has done reviews for my work. Maricel Jimenez has done reviews for my work, like in videos. These are people that recorded themselves talking about my book.
Yeah.
And sometimes you read those positive reviews. You read those milestones, those victories. I don't know how many times I've read the reviews that people have left me, and I always say it makes more of a difference than you know. People take it for granted, and I'm like, I'm reading, and when you see the difference of someone that really read it and someone that just left a review. Volume of reviews is great. Volume of quality reviews is the best. That's why I actually really enjoy 4-star reviews. A lot of the 4-star reviews are really, really, they go in depth. Some 5-star reviews also as well, and that's like,
yeah.
But, you do that, but you don't depend just on that, because when you become dependent on one thing or another, that's when it's a problem. It's just like an addiction. If someone becomes dependent on a substance to be creative or to be functional, like us who need inhalers, and I hate that, but it is.
It sucks. It is what it is. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Stop. Yeah.
I want to have a holistic treatment for when I feel discouraged. I don't want one thing. My go-to thing. There's not just one go-to thing. I feel discouraged, man, I go to the gym and I work out, and I try to keep physically active, because oftentimes, depression or negative thoughts can be countered by physical activity. That's why I also do the think walks. I haven't done those in a while because pollen or cold, because I know people say it's not really cold in Georgia, and I'm like, I'm from Puerto Rico, this is freezing. But I do think walks, which is just me rambling and doing podcasts that I upload on SoundCloud. I haven't done more for several reasons. One is pollen. Second is cold. Third is, there is a cap on what you can upload to SoundCloud. So.
There is, unfortunately.
And again, that's just another thing that I've done to cope with that. And the last thing that I'll mention, or else I'm going to do like a dissertation on it. Sometimes I write blog posts of where my headspace, where I want it. And it's basically, people say you have to take your own advice. Well, that's me kind of doing exactly that. Where do I want my headspace? I'm feeling a negative thought. How am I going to respond to it? And I just write and let go and try to give myself advice. And then I post it and people say, oh, this helped me a lot, which is, I don't know how many blessings in one comment.
Yeah. I think it's really important to talk about that, especially since, like I said, you do come off as very positive, and people have said that about me too, which is funny because I always think I'm I'm really very gloom and doom inside, but that's not what I want to project, and that's not what I want to give other people. I don't want to give them the gift of all of my self-doubt and sadness, right? So I make an effort to not be that way.
No, at the end, it's a choice.
Yeah, and so you don't have to do that. You don't have to project all of those things all the time. And I think that it's good to allow yourself to feel the way that you're feeling. And then once you're done feeling the way that you're feeling, like you writing the affirmations and then recycling them and knowing you can have the paper again, that's a really cool thing. Because you've acknowledged it. You're not, just repressing it, but now you're allowing yourself to have something else that's going to be better for you and better for the people around you.
Yeah. No, but that's very important. We are entitled. I was speaking to a very good friend. That you're entitled to bad days. You're human. People have these expectations that you always have to be happy and everything that you do. Oh, it's positive, etc. And I always say, people say, oh, you're a very positive person. And I say, that's a daily choice. And it's not always an easy choice, but it is my choice to make.
Right.
Because even especially when I'm feeling really negative, I say, I have to do something positive because I know that one good action can shift the tide in my favor, just to feel better. And, I'm a big fan of supporting people, of paying it forward, there's so many people that it's just about them and what they do, and that's not. I always work so hard so that's never what people get from me. Yes, I want to be successful. Yes, I want to sell 1 million books. But I also want to watch your content. I also want to watch your channel. I also want to read your blog. I also want to read your books. I also want you to know that whatever you do matters. And
right.
And people do respond to that because everyone does enjoy praise, but everyone enjoys when you take the time. And that's one of the most important things that you can give someone. That's not something you're ever going to get back.
That's the most important thing that you can give somebody is your time.
Yeah. And when I never write on Facebook, I never write on people's walls, or rarely write on people's walls, but I always send them birthday messages, and I think about that person and what I want to send to them, and for it to be something particular. And some of those messages are like 3 pages long, but that time is well worth it because I know the difference that makes. And they say, you know what, it's always nice to get birthday greetings, but I'm always looking forward to your message. And that to me means a lot because it shows that the time that you invested and that the fact that you care shows, and they feel it.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And I don't want to, even if I was ever successful, I wouldn't want to be successful alone, because especially if you're in that cynical place where I certainly was just like you, with that, especially when I was younger.
You had a beard?
Well, I wished. I wanted a beard. Just didn't happen. Remember? I wanted to be in the circus. But that was another disappointment in life. But I want to have people that I appreciate and admire that are successful too, because it makes you happier. I'm so happy when I see that.
That's why I enjoy Joe and company, why I enjoy Joshua, why I enjoy Chrissy, why I enjoy your company, and the company of hundreds of people. If I did a list, it's hundreds of people that have supported me and I've supported their work. I want everyone to make it. And the thing is that success is not defined one single way. And we can all be successful. You know, I want Amanda's Our Right Side and her work to also be read by people. I want Sarah Brenton's short fictions to be read by more people. I want people to read other people's blogs. I want people to go to Twitter and check Stephen Cleat's flash fictions out. I want people to realize that it is a huge shame that Larissa Waterby hasn't gotten a contract for one of her books. Because these are genuine people that aren't all about themselves. And I do interact with people that are all about themselves, and it's not cool. And you know, sometimes I do like a little shout out, because I don't want to give zero support, because they haven't really crossed that line. If they do cross that line, it's like, I'm gonna block you.
Yeah.
But there are people that it's all about me. And I think we have enough of that, thanks to Kanye and politics. It's all about me.
Yeah. Yes, Tyrone. And it's better when you can find people who are willing to give you their time, because then you know, all right, well, I'm willing to do this, you're willing to do that, and now we both care about each other, and it's building a relationship instead of just an empty.
Yeah, and it's not I'll scratch your back, and it's not I'll scratch your back and you'll scratch mine. It's not quid pro quo. It's not that, because I've done that, and it's like, okay, with people that I no longer interact with, and it's okay. It helped. It served its purpose.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. It's seeing someone hit a certain amount of subscribers and saying, "Oh, that's awesome." It's seeing your book #1 and saying, you know, taking a football and spiking.
Right.
And you know, it's realizing that we can all make it, and that we can all achieve how we define success, and enjoy it and have a good time.
That's right, and it's enjoyable. That's the thing. It's really fun when you see that happen. If you have that relationship with other people and friendship, it's so fun to see when things go well, because you were just a teeny part of that success, and so it makes your heart warm.
Yeah, but it's, you know, again, in our group, and which is a varied group because it's bits and pieces from a bunch of places, but you know, every little milestone that we get, we celebrate, and we don't celebrate like, oh yeah, participation. I really get really happy when people get a new review, and I go like, yeah, awesome, here you go, retweet. People see the value of a review, because I know the value of a review. That's why everything that I read, I review. Everything, every single thing, either good or bad. And if it's bad and I know the person, I say, this is the review. Are you okay with me posting it? And everyone has said, yeah. I'm like, okay.
No, that's a nice, a kind way to do things. I started reviewing everything since I've started publishing about 5 years ago. And before that, as just a reader, I've read so much, and I didn't realize the power of review. So I feel a little bit bad, you know, in my previous reading life. But going forward, it's nice to be able to leave reviews and know that you're helping somebody out, even if it is, okay, well, this was good, but maybe work on this, you know, because that's valuable too. It's valuable.
No, be constructive. I think I did one of the nicest 2-star reviews that you could ever do of a book that I didn't enjoy, and I didn't enjoy for specific reasons. I was looking for something steampunk, and I got romanced.
Yeah, it's nice if it's going to be romance. Tell me.
Yeah, the thing is that
I like romance. I like to know.
I got the impression that it was going to be like full on steampunk and blah blah blah, and it was a romance novel with steampunk tendencies, and not what I'm looking for.
Right.
You know, oh, I want to try that ice cream. It looks like avocado, and then you try it, and it's wasabi.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to learn what to tag appropriately.
Yeah.
Tag your book appropriately.
Yeah, and not only that, but to do your a true blurb.
A true blurb.
You know, but I did sing praises to the book when quoting paraphrasing. When you spoke about engineering and whatnot, I saw the passion with which you researched it, and that's when your book shined the best.
Yeah.
Because it's true. The whole romance and the copper eyes and the copper eyes.
Oh man. All right. Well, I have one more question for you. It is a fairly complicated question. What is your favorite tea?
My favorite type of tea. The thing is that I've tried it in different places. This actually doesn't say what it is, but I was actually having it. I was like, I want to have this tea for the chat, but I don't have any. And then I scrounged about it, and I had one tea bag left, and I opted to have this rather than loose leaf tea, just for the sake that it's my favorite tea, which is rooibos tea.
Oh, I love rooibos. Oh, such a good tea.
It is a very different flavor. It is not herbal, and it doesn't taste like tea, like black tea. It has the thing that I enjoyed. It almost has hints of vanilla in it, but it's still
sometimes it does.
Yeah, but it's still very plant-like, and it has that tea dynamic to it. And the first time I tried it was like a Celestial Seasonings, whatever, and it was good. Then I had just Red Bush rooibos tea, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And again, I like variety. I like to mix it up, from mint to orange to citric or very herbal. I like it all because I like to vary it up. Sometimes I'm in the mood for, I think it's genma maicha. It has toasted rice in it, and it tastes.
Yeah.
It's a very weird flavor, and it's not for every day.
I like that tea.
But sometimes I'm in the mood for it.
Yeah, it's good.
So yeah, rooibos for the win.
Rooibos. I remember the first time I had rooibos, I was in Chicago, and the girl I was staying with, she had been to Africa, and so she had brought back rooibos in this tin, and she gave it to me, and it blew my mind. And I drank so much of it. I feel like now that I realize, oh my god, I drank so much of this girl's tea. I'm a jerk. But yeah, I love it. It's so good.
No, but I've seen people that I follow a couple of tea accounts on Instagram, obviously.
Yeah.
Where they have like the bunch of tea. It's like they didn't even segment it. It's not even packed. They just took 2 pounds of it, put it in a bag, take it.
Yep.
And it's seeing tea in that way. We're so used to seeing it in bags that we don't appreciate how beautiful tea can be.
Oh, it can be so pretty.
When you have loose leaf tea, you actually did one where it was I'm pretty sure it was a rose pearl tea where you let it set and you let it open.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and it tastes. It's very particular. It's very perfume-like. I get it why people don't like it, but I like it, and I also like rose flavored Turkish delight. But it's just a very acquired taste.
Yeah, I can't think of a tea offhand that I don't like. I'm sure it exists, but
probably brands. I can tell you.
Brands. Yes.
Some brands.
Yeah,
but,
that's true. But I mean, like as far as flavors go.
Yeah.
I'm pretty open-minded, tea-wise.
I haven't tried one yet that I go ugh.
Blech. Yeah, I had at a truck stop the worst Liptons ever, but
It's a Lipton's.
And it was probably sitting there for, God knows how long
No,
before I got to it. So it's probably even its fault.
no, as a kid, I had the Lipton iced tea, lemon iced tea that was powder. It was basically the tea flavored Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And we would have that, and Mom would actually make frozen versions where she would make the tea and then she would put it in the blender with ice, and it was awesome. And it would get like this big head of foam, and you would drink it and just be messed up with the foam. So I had that, and then I went to a restaurant when I was about 10, and I ordered tea, iced tea.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time, and I haven't done it since I had unsweetened Lipton iced tea. That was bad, but again, it was a Lipton's. It was iced tea, poorly made, no love for it.
Have you had the sweet tea in the South now that you're in Georgia?
But
that sweet tea for me, the Southern sweet tea that's something I can't drink.
It's too sweet. I can have a glass, but I know that it's not a good life decision. I know there's a ton of sugar.
I can't even have a glass. I can't even have a glass. It's way too much.
No, the thing is that I have a high threshold for sugar. So
okay, yeah, I don't have a threshold.
It's not something that I crave. It's not something I go, oh, you know what I would like? I would like some sweet tea. Yeah. No, maybe I have to go to Old Madeline's from Augusta, Georgia, her house. She makes the best sweet tea or something.
Yeah.
If you take her a quilt, because you see weird stuff in Georgia. Yeah. Maybe then I'll have some sweet tea that is mind-blowing. But until that time, not yet.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I couldn't do it. But anyway, thank you very much for answering the tea question and for being here for this fantastic interview. Everybody, I left JD's links in the about, so you can just click over to his Amazon page, snap up his amazing book. I will be reading and reviewing it soon for a book club, Ani's book club.
Yay.
And yay! So once again, JD, let everybody know where to find you, and then we'll say goodbye.
JD Estrada, look for me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google+, on Instagram, and on YouTube. JD Estrada Writer. You will find me in all those places. My blog is jdestrada.blogspot.com. Eventually, it will probably be WordPress or just jdestrada.writer.com. Until then, it's Blogspot. And I do quirky stuff in all social media. It's not the same from one place to the other. I like to have fun, and I like to keep it goofy. And you will want to wear crazy socks, use bananas as props, and just keep it crazy. Because that's, it's all about having fun. So that, and look for me on Amazon. I just released Black Tie Affair. I'm going to show it one more time. I am working on self-promotion. This is my new author picture, by the way.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. Oh, look at you. Nice headshot. Good job.
It's nice and authoring.
It is. I'm impressed.
So,
I need
yeah.
to get one of those.
And this Sunday, I will release Relay of Rhymes. Tomorrow is going to be another teaser because I like to tease. And Thursday is going to be the cover reveal. So by all means, follow me, chat up. If you write me a message or if you interact anyways, you will get a response. That is the JD Estrada guarantee.
Yep, he will. He responded to me. So there you go.
And thank you so much for having me, by the way.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for watching. And I will let you say your final line before I stop the podcast. You know what it is.
Peace, love, and mark your roads.
Goodbye.